into another edition of the DB Show. I, of course, am Dan Kornhauser here with my co-host, Bobby Hunt. Happy Thursday, Bobby. Hope you're ready for another fun show. It's going to get crazy.
Yeah, of course. It's still a fun time, even though not a lot going on in terms of actual games, but plenty of rumors and off-season stuff going on. Look at
I got a
those.
lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff written down here.
Full sheet there. We're so prepared for so many things.
I got a lot of stuff written down, so let's jump right into it. You know what? I'll leave this first one up to you. Football, basketball, or baseball?
Let's do basketball since we'll stick with what we do with Shoot the J, which we did last week. So let's start there, something that we've been doing recently, but then we can transition to other stuff. So
Okay.
TV show.
All right, so let's go with the NBA. More rumors coming out today. James Harden is apparently determined to get to the Clippers, pair up with Kawhi, pair up, I assume, with Paul George. I don't really know how that would happen, given he accepted his player offer or his player option, but I digress. He wants to go to LA. I'm sure it'll happen. The other rumor was involving Dame Lillard. Of course, we know he wants to go to the Miami Heat. We talked about that at length on last week's show, but a new detail emerged today. Initially, it sounded like, well, maybe the Blazers didn't want Tyler Hero, and maybe they had to bring in a third team. But I mean, the rumor came out today. It sounds like Hero is indeed going to be involved in that deal, most likely going to the Blazers. And as of right now, Miami has 3 first-round picks they're looking to send the Blazers' way. The Blazers sound like they want a minimum of 4, which I understand considering what kind of deal the Jazz got for Rudy Gobert. Of these two, Bob, are they both happening? Are neither happening? What are we doing here? What's going on?
Well, it sounds like you want to make me look good because last week I said Clippers for Harden, and then as far as Dame goes, I said Tyler Hero matters. Maybe not so much with the Dame trade, but he mattered in terms of how the Miami Heat were as the finalist from the Eastern Conference. But still one of the worst of the last 20 years, but that was for last week. So Tyler Hero, I think, it has to be in that deal. And I think both get done at the end of the day. It just makes a lot of sense for all the teams involved. Clearly with this one, with the Lillard to the Heat trade, he wants to go there. They want to make it happen. They do have a solid piece in Hero. It's got to include him. Even if both of us aren't huge Tyler Hero fans, or Hero, as you like to say, he has to be in that deal. He's a good piece. He scores 20 a game when he's healthy. That's been a bit of an issue recently. But he's a good player. He belongs in the league. He belongs in a rotation, whether that's starting or being that 6th man off the bench. That's really his best role. But he's got to be in that deal. And look, for a superstar in the NBA, you're still not getting full dollar on dollar pretty much ever. But at least if Hero's in it, along with those first-round picks, maybe one or two other pieces, we'll see if Caleb Martin winds up in it. Although I know Lillard doesn't want that to happen. I'm sure the Heat don't want it to happen either. I don't think you break up the deal because of that. You get Dame Lillard if you need to. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's continue with this.
I'm sorry. Finish your point.
Well, I wanted to go on to the Harden trade, but if you have something about Lillard to the Heat, we should just stick with that.
No, not at all. You said everything that needs to be said. So let's move on to the hard-on. You said Lillard to the Heat, whatever. Is it realistic with Harden? I mean, he wants to go there. He's determined to go there. They have nothing really to offer, but I mean, it's in the bag, right? This isn't going to change suddenly, is it?
I don't know if it's in the bag, but I do think he'll wind up getting his way. And if the Clippers are offering so many first-round picks, I could see why they'll do it. And it makes even more sense there because with the Heat trade, they're not going to be terrible. They're going to be good for the next few years and contending. If the Clippers trade away all those first-round picks, especially future ones, this team could be easily tearing it all down in 2 years. It already hasn't worked so far. In the summer of 2019, we saw the Nets get assembled. KD and Kyrie went there. In LA, we thought it was a big deal that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were going to team up in LA. Hasn't worked out, mainly because of injuries. Now, they haven't been a problem like Kyrie was for the Nets. So that's why that got broken down quicker. And they even added Harden in the meantime. The Clippers tried to add – they added Westbrook last year. He did pretty well for them, but still didn't make a huge difference. They just don't have that third star to go with those guys. And Harden just makes logical sense playing all those vets. You just go all in for these next 2 years. But that's the bigger problem is just what else they're getting back besides those first round picks. If I'm Philly, what does Terrence Mann make a huge difference for me? Maybe if I can provide Zubox from them, that's a nice piece. But again, not a headliner at all. Not as good as Tyler Hero. No one has the type of upside that Hero has, or even has displayed so far throughout his career that the Clippers are going to be willing to trade.
Okay. Now, moving on from these two trades and this other NBA tomfoolery, as you see in the caption down below, I did want to talk about the rookies a little bit because we did not discuss anything about Wembanyama or Scoot or anyone else. So I figured now's the time to do it since all of the top 3 picks were shut down for Summer League. Wembanyama first, and then the other 2. Scoot, I think, actually has an injury. Whatever. Point is, they're done for the Summer League. We won't see them again until the season starts. I know the popular answer is Wemby is the favorite overwhelmingly, and understandably so to be the rookie of the year. But I don't want you to project their careers because really, who can do that at this point? But I want you to tell me who's going to be the best rookie this year. Is it going to be Wemby? Is it going to be Scoot? Is it going to be Chet? Because remember, Chet was drafted last year, but I'm pretty sure he still counts as a rookie, and I'm pretty sure he could still win the Rookie of the Year award this year. So I'll throw Chet in there too, and Chet has been going off in Summer League for what it's worth, but he's been looking really good. So who's your Rookie of the Year favorite right now, Bob? Is it still Wemby?
You are correct that Chet would be a rookie. It's similar to Blake Griffin about 12 years ago or so, 13. I think he was 2010 draft, somewhere around there. Or maybe 09. It was 09. He was hurt. And then the next year he was a rookie and he won Rookie of the Year award. So it can happen. And I still definitely put Wemby as the favorite. He's just a generational talent. He's going to be special. I do worry about injuries, but already you're seeing him get shut down along with a bunch of other rookies, which we'll get to. Mm-hmm. He's the favorite. He's the number 1 pick for a reason. He's going to be able to stuff the stat sheet. He should be able to be the number 1 player from Jump Street as the number 1 pick and the Spurs' best player. They have some good players around him, young guys, whether it's Keldon Johnson or it's Devin Vassell, whatever it may be. But It's not Wemby. Wemby's still the favorite. But there is that concern that he could get hurt or they'll really be managing his load a lot. Otherwise, I would say Scoot. That's who I like more because he could be right away the guy that does the most for them. Whereas Brandon Miller with the Hornets, you still have LaMelo Ball there. Terry Rozier is going to jack shots. Now, yes, there's still opportunity for him because the roster's pretty weak. Beyond that, throwing PJ Washington, but that roster is bombed out and depleted otherwise. A bunch of young guys, bad fits, but at least they have LaMelo and now Brandon Miller. But I still think those guys are the favorites without a doubt. I'm not even throwing in someone later in the round because I think these guys are special. So it's boring. It's not a sexy pick or another lottery pick even, but I think Wemby's got to be 1, but I would put Scoot 2. I think because I'm also assuming Lillard's going to get traded. So he would then have full run of the backcourt. I know they have Simons there, but he's a shooter. They can both score and fill it up. So I don't worry about him if he's just with Simons.
So for me, I really want to put Chet as my number 1, mostly because while Wemby's better, the better prospect and all that, generational talent, Chet has a year of NBA working out, learning the game on the NBA level, being around his teammates and his current team. Wemby's coming over from Europe. He's doing his traveling around the country, doing his thing as a number 1 pick. Yeah, he was in Summer League, but he's done now. He is slight for his size. He will need to learn how to bang with the big boys in the NBA. There will be a learning curve. As good as he is and as good as he can be, there will be a learning curve there. Chet, a little bigger, a little stronger, 1 year in. I think that's worth something in this conversation, but it is the Thunder. They are very likely to sit him half the season as they are to play him enough games for him to actually contend for the Rookie of the Year award and be in that conversation. So I want to say Chet, but I'm not gonna because the Thunder suck and I hate them and they piss everybody off, especially in fantasy with their benching of players. But I'm gonna go with Scoot, just to not say the same thing as you with Wemby. I'm gonna go with Scoot. Like you said, if they're getting rid of Lillard, yeah, they have Simons, yeah, they have other young pieces there, but no one stands out. You got Scoot for a reason. He's arguably the best player in this class, depending on who you talk to. And yeah, I think it's set up for him to do something special in his rookie season. Let's move on from the NBA, though. We do have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. We've already spoken about the NBA way too much. Let's go to you know what? Let's go to football because I want to finish with baseball because it's going to get crazy. Now it is the off season, and we're right in that window of emptiness between the off season stuff and OTAs and then training camps. So it's kind of quiet, but here in New York, it's been kind of loud news wise lately. Of course, we are in New York. Bob's a Giants fan.
Go Big Blue.
Jets Giants in the news for different reasons. Start with the Giants. Saquon Barkley. He's threatening to hold out, threatening to not play week 1. I know in the chat with you, Greg, and I, you said you weren't concerned, but the rumors are floating out there, believe them or not, but that the rumors are saying that he wants $16 million a year. The team offered somewhere in the range of $12 to $13 million, which he turned down. It's getting ugly. We're a couple of weeks from training camp. Bob, are you buying or selling Saquon Barkley actually missing time, game time, relevant game time?
I'm selling on that, and I'm glad you phrased it that way because I do think it'll go past the deadline, and he's going to come back on the franchise tag, but I don't think he's going to miss any actual games, any regular season games. So he might miss the preseason. He may not be there for the training camp or whatever, but I don't see him missing week 1. Is it possible? I don't know. What kind of percentage would you put on that? Because I put a very small one on that. I don't think he's missing games like that. Granted, he's not under contract, so luckily for him, it's not like he's going to be getting fined, I don't think, during that training camp time because he won't have signed the franchise tag. Once he signs that, he's going to be coming back. But either a deal gets done before Monday or he's probably seriously threatening doing that. Why show up, especially if you don't feel like you're getting valued or getting the contract you want. But I still have been worried about it for the most part because really it's the deadline. If they get a deal done tomorrow, this is all moot. So will I start to be a little concerned if there's no deal and he doesn't sign his franchise tag Monday? A little bit. But until he misses week 1, I don't have a problem with it, especially because he's a running back. I don't worry about him sliding right in after a week of practice. He's not going to play any preseason games anyway, even if he does get a deal or sign the franchise tag. He's in a bad place. He's not going to be – he has no bargaining power. The Giants want to get a deal done, but do I think it's going to happen soon? I don't. I think he'll need to sign the franchise tag, but he's not going to miss any games.
Okay. Now, staying with the position, before we go to the Jets, we're going to stick with the theme of running backs holding out and running backs being available. First with the holdout, Josh Jacobs for the Raiders. Apparently he put a deadline of Monday, this upcoming Monday, 4 p.m., as the deadline for the team to give him a multi-year contract. Otherwise, he's going to hold out and at the very least not report to training camp, and we'll see what else from there. So are you buying that? Are you buying Josh Jacobs' career year for the Raiders this past season? The engine for that offense. I mean, you buying it or you selling it? Is he holding out?
I'm buying what you're saying in terms of just holding out, but I don't think he'll miss any games either. I don't think there's enough incentive to be doing something like that. And these guys will both either get their deal that they want. There is still a few more days. We just saw Quentin Williams get his deal. They're running backs, so very unlikely that they get exactly what they want. They probably will have to hold out. That's why they're being more aggressive like this, because they probably are getting lowballed considering some other offers that have been out there over the last 5 years or so. But as we all know, running back position's been devalued, and rightfully so. There are some special backs, some true difference makers, but when you're doing the wins above replacement type stuff, it's all the time. It's all over the NFL. You can plug and play different running backs. A lot of teams want to use two. You have to use two just to keep guys fresh. There's so many injuries to all these running backs. They just take such a beating. They're not going to probably get exactly what they want. I think they're both going to be on the franchise tag.
Now, before we move on to the Jets and Quinnen Williams, since you alluded to it moments ago, I'm going to ask you two quick questions, and you just pick one or the other. Okay. More likely to happen: Barkley and or Jacobs holds out long enough to miss relevant time, or one of them is no longer on the team because of this before the season starts, and they end up getting traded on a whim or some shit. More likely, someone just misses time, or someone gets traded.
Way more likely that someone misses time. They're not
and
traded
then
because they'd have to be when the team needs to give up 2 first-round picks. Is it franchise tag them?
Honestly, I don't know how it works. I just thought about it, and I wanted to get your thoughts.
No, they're Giants and Raiders respectively. If they don't agree to a new long-term deal, which I believe is still possible for both of them, honestly, but I don't think that's happening. They'll both hold out, wind up signing the franchise tag, but could they miss it time? I suppose maybe one game as a real threat, but it doesn't serve in their favor. I think they'll both be back before week 1. Will they maybe be ready in time for week 1? That's a good question, but I think they'll be with the team like right before the season starts. If they take it that far. Again, these could get done before Monday or even in 2 weeks. So, but I do think their threats are real because they probably aren't getting what running backs have been getting over the years. So, but
the running back market is really ugly this year. You can ask Zeke and you can ask Dalvin Cook. And now with that, my second question will involve Dalvin Cook. What's most likely to happen first? Dalvin Cook signs with his new team, or both these guys end up re-signing with their respective, Giants and Raiders, which is happening first?
It's a good one. I like that. I'll say Cook signs first because he does have a deal on the table apparently with the Vikings to go actually back there, but at a much lower rate. I believe $7 million a year. That's what I'll be hearing on the radio. But obviously, probably there's some sore feelings there on Cook's side that they cut him just to try to re-sign him on a smaller deal. He really wants to play in Miami. That's where he's from. He went to school at Florida State. We know the connections there. And the Dolphins do need a running back. The fit matches what is out there. Cook should get a deal done with them. I don't know if it's definitely going to happen with them, but either way, injuries are going to happen, other problems, whatever might come in the NFL news cycle. I think he does get signed before both guys get signed. Maybe one does get a deal or franchise tag, but I would be surprised if both were locked up by Monday.
All right, and for the record, I think both of those guys re-sign with their respective teams before Cook gets his new team. I really think he's going to extend it into training camp, and then at that point, he's probably going to miss the first week or two anyway, getting back in shape and whatnot, learning the playbook and shit. So I'll go with those two. Now, moving on to the New York Jets, because that's another big story here in New York today. Quinnen Williams, star defensive tackle, signs a 4-year extension, 4 years, $96 million, $66 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid defensive tackle. I have to double check, but I want to say highest paid defensive lineman, period.
Not sure, honestly.
I'll have to look into that. Don't quote me on that. But regardless, I know he's the highest paid D-line. And it's a lot of money for a defensive tackle. After Jeff Simmons got his deal and so on and so forth, other guys getting paid recently up front, Williams becomes the next one. Bob, good move, bad move?
It's a good move. The Jets had to retain their pass rusher, guy they drafted number 3 overall. What was that, 2020 draft, I believe? The COVID year, I want to say. It's got to be 2020 by now. Because Joe Burrow is also eligible for his extension and Herbert and so on. So I think it's a great deal. He's their best defensive player besides Sauce, if you want to put Sauce ahead of him already. Even if not, you can definitely – Quinnen would be the guy. Clearly, he's the next best player on that Jets defense, certainly the best on that D-line. And defensive tackles have played a bigger role recently in today's NFL and have been getting paid. You mentioned Jeffrey Simmons with the Titans getting locked up earlier in the offseason. Dexter Lawrence of the Giants also got a fat new deal. You're seeing it around the league. More importance being put on D tackles, not just defensive ends. If you can rush the passer, you're going to get paid, whether that's on the outside, the interior, linebacking, wherever it may be. If you can sack the quarterback, you're a valuable piece. So they retain one of their own, and I think it's a great deal for them, for both sides.
All right. One more thing with the NFL, also involving the Jets. What's it called? Hard Knocks. There we go. I had it written down. I lost it on the paper, and then I had a brain fart, and I blanked out. But no, Hard Knocks, the Jets. The Jets didn't want it. There were, I think, 3 or 4 teams that were in contention for it. The Jets had no interest. They said it so publicly, and yet here they are. They got picked by the NFL. So they're going to do Hard Knocks. I think it's on HBO. Yes. The Detroit Lions were on there, I think, last season. I didn't really watch any of it because I really couldn't care less about either Hard Knocks or the Detroit Lions coming into last season. So I didn't really watch too much of that, admittedly so. But the Jets are an interesting story. They have a lot of buzz. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, the trade, getting him. Getting Aaron, even though he might be a little bit past his prime, is still huge news. It has catapulted the Jets into championship contention conversations. Whether or not you're on board with that is a different story. Spoiler alert, I am not on board with that notion. With Aaron, without Aaron, I don't care. The Jets aren't competing for a chip this year. But that'll be another conversation for another day. Bob, thoughts on Hard Knocks? Thoughts on the Jets getting Hard Knocks? Did they make the right call?
I'm excited for it. I do watch Hard Knocks every year. I might have missed a couple years here and there, but for the most part, I've been into it. It gets me ready for the NFL season, honestly. Obviously, I'm also in fantasy drafts with you. We talk about that too, and there are other things to discuss, but we don't really watch preseason games, so those are useless. But I do like the idea of following a team around. It's a 5-week series, so just 5 episodes. That's it. Not much to it. Once a week. And I'm excited. The Jets are the premier team that you want to see in training camp right now. I know there's better teams out there for sure, but they definitely have tons of great storylines. And especially considering the competition, the Jets were the only choice. The other teams would have been the Saints and Bears or Commanders. None of those are that appealing. You can make a case for maybe 1 or 2 of those. Derek Carr in a new place, but Dennis Allen, boring. And the Bears, okay, maybe see how Justin Fields builds a rapport with DJ Moore, but there's nothing compared to Aaron Rodgers, who's been probably the most buzzworthy NFL player the last 5 years, and not just because of his play on the field. He's won 2 MVPs during that time, but his off the field stuff is talked about probably more than anything else. So it's a great time to be a Jets fan. There's a lot of buzz around the team. I do think they'll be a really good team this year, not necessarily a Super Bowl contender right away, but they're a sexy team to watch, whether it's Rodgers or now you have Quentin Williams back in the fold, Sauce Gardner, won Defensive Rookie of the Year, Garrett Wilson, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Robert Saleh, their head coach, not nearly what Rex Ryan was when they were on Hard Knocks the first time. He's not that interesting of a personality, but I think we'll see a different side of him when they get behind those closed doors and show footage of him. He's got like 6 or 7 kids. I know he's a golf maniac, so we're going to find out some more things about the Jets, and I don't blame them for not wanting it, but too bad. You were clearly the most interesting of those 4 that they could have chosen from.
Yeah, well, enjoy that. I'm sure you can tell me how that goes when you do watch it. But let me see. Oh, wait, hold on. We got here we go. Velvet Thunder. Are we getting in season Hard Knocks again?
Good question.
What?
Don't know the answer. So they did have that the last couple of years. They had the Arizona Cardinals last year. That one I did watch, although well after the fact, and it was fun. I think I mentioned you to see that team crash and burn. That was fun, and seeing how Cliff Kingsbury knew with about 3 games left that he was out the door. And Velvet Thunder says cards were decent to watch that implosion in real time. Exactly what I just said. I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's why it's there. See,
the previous year was the Colts. I did not watch that one, but I'm sure that was amazing as well to see that team falter down the stretch with Carson Wentz.
Now, I'm done with football. I'm done with the Cardinals. I'm done with Murray. I'm done with all those clowns. I'm done with Hard Knocks. But before we move on to baseball, I wrote it down and I completely skipped over it. And I feel very strongly about this. And I want to talk about it because I have some thoughts.
I know where you're going. I know exactly where you're going. It's in the NBA.
We're going to jump.
Can I guess?
We're going to guess. Take a guess before I say
it. The NBA, and it's probably about the in-season tournament.
We're going to jump back. I don't like jumping back once we're done with a section. But we have to do it because I talked about this, Bob, before the show, and I feel very strongly about this. And I want the whole world to know just how I feel about this in-season NBA tourney. I would rather watch I don't know, about a billion other things. Paint dry, grass grow, caterpillar emerging from its cocoon after a long winter. You know, there's a lot of other things. I don't know how caterpillars, I don't know how that works, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of other things I would rather watch than an NBA in-season tournament. I know they tried to make it interesting by saying they're going to pay the guys $500,000 for winning. Everybody on the team gets $500,000 if their team wins. The games will count towards their regular season record. Only the championship game will not count towards the team's final record, but they will be playing one extra game. And I hate it. I think it's dumb. I heard some analysts talking about that the players really wanted this, and they see in FIFA how there are in-season soccer tournaments in the middle of their club's season. There's Champions League, there's international tournaments, there's other random club tournaments besides the Champions League, and every country has their own thing. So those teams play a game, they get a trophy, the club gets some money, the players get some money, and it's really successful in soccer and in FIFA around the world, especially in Europe. But this ain't soccer, and this ain't Europe. We're not here.
America.
Yeah, this is America. We're not here to give mid-season awards and prize money to butthole teams. Oh, man, you know, we're not going to make the playoffs, but we won the mid-season tournament. We got a trophy. Let's put this in the glass case. Said no one ever. It's awful. I think it's childish. I think it's diluting the NBA as we know it. I get it. NBA regular season games don't matter, and no one cares until like December, January. No one gives a damn. But give me a break, dude. This is weak. This is all about money. And whoever thought this was a good idea, I want to punch them very lightly until they pass out.
They want to make some more money. You mentioned that. They also want to drum up more.
Piss me off. They want to piss me off.
Everyone off. No, they think they do want to spice up the regular season. They know it's a boring product. They know a lot of people don't tune in. I'm a diehard fan, but I still don't see every Knicks game. I tune into some random games as well that are on ESPN or ABC on the weekend, but there's just not enough to care. You just need to make the postseason. They need to make some changes, but I don't think this is it either. But this is the idea they came up with. I'll be able to fully judge it once I actually see it. The only thing that they're hoping, and again, I don't necessarily agree with all this, but this is what I would say is the NBA's hope in terms of this in-season tournament. So make games that otherwise obviously don't matter because they're hyping them up. They're going to be advertising. Oh, it's I think on Tuesdays and Fridays or something like that. They're in November, December. Those games will matter for something. So they want to also have like that elimination style thing. And what Europe does, they do a little group play and you get into a bracket and you have single elimination. So there is high stakes, even though it is just one game. I still don't see the real incentive. Now, maybe if you're one of those rotational guys or some young guy on the bench, hell yeah, you want to make $500,000 because you're really not getting paid all that much. But for the top players, they're making 30, 40, 50. I think Dame Lillard's got the highest salary this coming season at about $60 million. If not this year, then next year. So all those top guys, they're not going to be killing it in November and December for this tournament unless there's some rule that they have to play in it unless they have a legit injury. But I don't think the NBA is going to do that. So I think this is a half-assed attempt at doing something. They'll see how it goes, but when it probably fails, they'll scrap it and they'll get rid of it. But again, I can't fully judge. Maybe the guys will be into it. Maybe we will see some signs of maybe a young team, especially that's playing every game, make a run at this NBA Cup, what that they're calling it. I don't see the real benefit. I agree with you for the most part, but there's some things that the NBA is hoping will come out of this tournament.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Such a waste of time, such a waste of thought. It's cute and it's dumb. And I think it's
the funny thing too is the stats will count there because they are counted as regular season games, but the championship isn't. So you drop like 50 in that game and it doesn't matter. And but you win the NBA Cup.
Whoop de effing do. Hooray.
Do.
We're going to move on because I'm just going to get madder and I'm just going to say reckless things. But before we do, Velvet Thunder makes a good point. Soccer is a different dynamic. You're talking about multiple leagues across multiple countries that don't play each other every year, and it gives those teams bragging rights. Basketball, in-season tourney, pure cash. And you're not wrong. We said as such. Now,
100% right. It's absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all different countries. They're not. It's not the Premier League doing an in-season tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say it would be one thing if NBA teams played Canadian teams and played Mexican teams. But let's be honest, the Charlotte Hornets are probably dropping, winning by 30 points against the best Canadian basketball team or the best Mexican regular basketball team.
It's smack Mexico in basketball. Canada has some good players, but.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in their best league, their best team in that basketball league in Canada.
Oh, yeah. No.
We're not talking about Canadian basketball players like a national team. We're talking about club.
Sorry, yes. I don't know what kind of league they got in Canada, but certainly Mexico ain't cutting it. And most of the leagues around the nation aren't. Only some.
Even if they wanted to do a European tournament with like one of these Spaniard standout teams or one of these stud French teams or something,
it's like
the Spurs would embarrass the best team in Spain.
And this is what the Olympics are for.
And even
you don't
that.
need to see it between NBA teams, some that don't belong at all, and teams that aren't going to give a damn because it's November and December. You got to have it. I'm glad they're not doing it close to the playoffs, but is this necessarily going to raise the intensity level? Not by a lot. I don't think so.
It's awful. Now let's move on. I'm done with it. I'm done with the NBA tournament. Let's finish up with baseball. All right, we're at the midway point. The All-Star break is done. Baseball starting back up tomorrow, Friday. Trade deadline's coming up soon. I think August 1st is the non-waiver deadline. There's a lot going to be going on in the next few weeks here, Bob. And being in New York, let's talk about Yankees. Let's talk about the Mets a little bit. Both teams kind of disappointing, one more so than the other. The Yankees coming out of the All-Star break 49-42. They sit 8 games back of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's 58-35. The Yanks were 4-6 in their last 10 going into the All-Star game. Doesn't really scream big second half to me, but I digress. The Mets 42-48 at the All-Star break. I mean, they're out of it in their division. It's not even worth mentioning, but I'm going to mention it anyway. 18.5 games back of Atlanta. Atlanta's got 60 wins. Absolutely killing it. And then with both of these teams, they're going in 2 different directions, Bob. Which of these 2 teams is most likely to be I don't want to say that because we're both going to say the Mets. Which one of these teams is going to make a bigger impact at the deadline, one way or the other, either as sellers or as buyers?
I like that question.
I know you do. I do those.
Probably the Mets as sellers, honestly. I think they'll realize we're not going to make it. The division's dead. 18.5 out. Forget about that.
Yep.
Wild card, I want to say they're 6.5 back. You probably have it in front of you. Let me know when you have it. But
Yeah, what's that now?
how many games back the Mets are out of the wild card?
Oh, the Mets out of the wild card. Here we go. So they are. My computer's
Sucks.
pissing me off. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it sucks. So they are 7 games out of the wild card.
7 games. Still within reach as of right now, but it's getting late early, as Yogi Berra once said. It's July 13th. They aren't going to make a huge push. 6 games under also. They're not dead in the wild card, but it's looking bleak. This next week or so will obviously tell us what we need to know in terms of which direction they're going, but we'd both be surprised if they're going to go on some streak or run. They just had one. It was, 5 or 6 games, and they lost the last 2 to the Padres going into the break. I think there will be more sellers. And while I don't find their pieces all that attractive that they have to offer, there is still a slim possibility maybe someone wants to get Verlander or Scherzer from them. That remains a possibility, and that would make them a big seller. But I look for guys like Tommy Pham or Mark Cannon to be traded, David Robertson out of the bullpen. These are the type of pieces that the Mets are probably going to move regardless at the deadline.
Now, you had mentioned Scherzer and Verlander. Scherzer has a no-trade clause. He's in the second year of a 3-year, $130 million contract, full no-trade clause. A couple of weeks ago, Steve Cohen was asked what he was going to be doing about this and what he was going to be doing with Verlander and Scherzer. Verlander, he said he was open to. Scherzer, he said he was open to. But the big thing is that Scherzer came out and said that he might be open to waiving his no-trade clause if that's what it came down to. Now, if you're a Mets fan, I know Scherzer's not pitching what he should be this season, but that can't be reassuring for you. You know, you don't want to hear arguably your top starting pitcher, one of your best players on your team, at the midseason break looking around and being like, you know what? If they want to ship me out of here, I'll be okay with that.
Well, why wouldn't he be?
Well, why wouldn't he be? Yeah, sure. But if you're hearing that as a fan, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt right there.
It can't hurt any worse than the way he's pitched in big games for the Mets. Get rid of him. Get him out. Mets fans aren't attached to him, so screw him. That's the cherry on top, right? Him saying that, well, I'd consider it. Of course he would if he has a good place to go to. He's sucked as a Met, which is funny because he had such a great year last year, but we also tend to forget he missed a month or 2 in the middle of the year with some kind of injury. I forget exactly what. And then at the end of the year, he stunk. He was terrible in the Braves start. He was terrible in the wild card
playoffs.
The Padres. And then this past Sunday against the Padres in a big game before the break. All right, they had lost the previous night, but winning this game, they'd probably feel still pretty good, winning 7 out of 8 or however many games. But he spit the bit. He wasn't any good. I think the Mets fans are done with Scherzer, and especially I would trade him now. He's 39, I want to say, and he's making a ton of money. Granted, his contract isn't for that much longer, and there's an option for next year. But hell yeah, ship him out. He hasn't been a good Met, and get what you can now because he's pretty much damaged goods. He's not going to be the same pitcher. Can he be effective at times? Occasionally, but not on a regular basis. He's not the Max Scherzer that's going to make the Hall of Fame. Get him out, see what you can get. I would think they'll be able to get at least a pretty good prospect for someone of Scherzer's stature, regardless of whether it's a rental or not.
Now, let's stick with the whole trade deadline thing since we dove balls deep into this at this point. So let's stick with it. That was on the list, trade deadline. I mean, we're Yankees fans. Some pretty interesting news broke. I'm not sure if everyone heard it, but if you haven't, Buster Olney came out, I think, on ESPN earlier today. And when asked about Ohtani, he said, well, we know the Angels' stance at this point has been that they don't want to trade Ohtani, but they are falling out of contention. They are 1-9 in their last 10. They've lost 10 of their last 14. I think they've got like 4 or 5 wins in the last like 3 or 4 weeks. It's really, really bad. Anthony Rendon is hurt. I don't know if he is hurt, but he's been injured. He's been in and out. Mike Trout is out for an extended period of time. Ohtani is a free agent at the end of this season. It's getting crazy. Ohtani's got 31 home runs, 68 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. Actually, I think he might actually have more at this point. I think he's got 70 RBIs. I'm looking at old information, I think. But regardless, he's going in.
That's ridiculous.
I think he leads the league in OPS or something crazy like that. Pitching wise, he's one of the best pitchers in the league. Got slightly over a 3 ERA, 130, 140 strikeouts, something ridiculous like that. I mean, the guy is doing things no one really thought possible. Even in video games, no one even thought you could do something like this. It's truly special shit. And when he was asked about Ohtani, he said, yeah, they don't want to trade him. But in lieu of all these things going on and the team being ass cheeks, who are the teams that might want him? The Yankees, the Yankees, the Yankees, the Yankees, and the Yankees. And then he said, the Rangers, maybe the Rays. I mean, the Rays were a surprise for him to say that, but he did say the Rays, so I'm saying it because he said it. But he said the Yankees a bunch of times and said that they are the most motivated to get Ohtani. I've heard other rumors of maybe the Yankees targeting Juan Soto and adding him to this outfield because it's not really working in San Diego. He's not doing Soto-esque things like they expected when they acquired him. Maybe it's not as smooth in San Diego. Maybe he's available for the right price. Who knows? But this Ohtani news, it makes me feel things. Very strong, happy feelings.
Yes.
Throughout my entire body from head to toe. Really gets the blood
This
flowing.
is shocking news, and we didn't expect it, but I don't know that Buster Olney's quite Woj or anybody like that or Shams in the NBA. I do question his sources because this is out of left field. But as a Yankee fan, I got to be honest and give you that perspective. Yeah, I'd be over the moon. That's awesome if they actually are interested in him and even Soto to a lesser degree. But I don't know what they trade. And you'd have to get, regardless of what happens, you'd have to have some assurances that he's going to re-sign with the team. You can't be trading what you need to give up for someone as unique and special and just one of a kind like Shohei Ohtani and not be keeping him. He can't be a rental for 2 months. Even if he is, are the Yankees winning a World Series? I don't think even as much as Ohtani's a great player, they're still not, to me, a legit World Series contender. Would they be a bigger possibility? 100%. Wouldn't disagree with that. But, oh, man, that would be awesome. If they were able to get one of these guys, the package would be ridiculous. Probably a few major leaguers, obviously some of the top prospects in the farm system. I can't see it happening, but the Yankees absolutely should be in. Let's see them be the big boys. Let's see them spend some more money. They know the fans are upset, and this team just isn't good enough. Imagine having one of those left-handed bats in the lineup every day in Yankee Stadium. It would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, Velvet Thunder comes out. I share in your feelings, sir. Rumor or not, if the Yankees make this move or the Soto move, we need to do something. Listen, I am at the point in my fandom where I enjoy the sports and the games regardless of how my teams are doing. But it's definitely made me a cold, hateful, cynical fan for all my teams. The Lions suck. No matter what they do, they suck. I don't care who they have or what they've done, they're butt. The Knicks, they make the playoffs. They might as well be the worst team in the NBA in my eyes because they ain't winning chips. The Devils, the young Devils, come out of left field are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Play well all year. They beat the Rangers, the team that the Rangers should have won that series. They should have maybe even won in 5 games. They were that much better, at least on paper, talent-wise, than the Devils were. And the Young Devils came through. They won that series, ripped out Rangers fans' hearts, moved on to the next round, showed that they maybe the arrow was pointing up. And that did not move the needle for me. As far as I'm concerned, the Devils are still butt. And this is what the Florida Gators, don't even get me going on them. I just want to throw things. I'm going to get upset. So I'm very cynical with my teams. With the Yankees, they're the only ones that don't get the complete wrath that I have to offer and just disgust for my teams. But they're pushing it. They're really pushing it. And I'm not like some of these other Yankees fans, the obnoxious ones that, oh, it's championship or bust. Fire Cashman, fire Boone, fire everybody. Where's George? All this craziness. I'm not one of those fans. But 2009 was a long time ago. Yeah, we signed Garrett Cole, which was cool a few years ago and needed. And sure, we spent a lot of money on Rodon, but the Teixeira and CC Sabathia year, that's how you win chips. That stuff like that is what's to be expected. The Yankees have been doing that. Nothing anywhere close to that. And they keep playing with this line, oh, we don't want to pass this $200 million. You should need to spend $200 million. And then they spend $200 million. And now it's, oh, you shouldn't have to spend $300 million. And it's like, well, sure. But now with this Ohtani rumor, maybe Soto, these guys are getting banked, bro. What, you think the Angels or the Padres are going to take back Giancarlo and just do us that solid favor? No, they're not. So we're going to keep adding money. We're going to keep adding these guys for what? Like you said, Bob, are we going to win a chip with Ohtani? Is that guaranteeing anything?
It isn't, but clearly it would be a great move to make. So you already made that abundantly clear. And you shouldn't give the Yankees as much crap. They've served you well. We've seen 5 World Series championships. And yes, it's going on 14, 15 now. And I want to see them make a World Series. I want to see them active. I just am not as cynical just because I know they're not as good as 09. The difference with 09 is look at the team that was already in place when they signed those free agents. They still had Jeter playing at a high level. Hideki Matsui was in his prime. They also had Posada still there, Mariano Rivera still there. So that team was more built. The guys that they brought in, Cashman and the rest of the front office, haven't worked out. Gleyber Torres has been good at times, but mostly inconsistent and not as good as a prospect as they thought they were getting. DJ LeMahieu looks shot. Giancarlo Stanton takes forever to get heated up after he has his usual 6-week injury, and he can't be relied upon to stay healthy. So the pieces aren't in place. You get Ohtani, that changes some things, does make you better, especially because you get that dual threat of both a starting pitcher and a great hitter. But they need other pieces in place. They're going to be trading a lot of those in that deal, but if it's for Ohtani, I'm not going to complain. He's a one-of-a-kind player. I am 100% on board with them trying to get him. Soto, I'd be a little more hesitant about. But I did want to ask you about one guy, and you can add to any of that if you want. But I also just want to ask, do you see Nolan Arenado getting traded? Because that's the other name we've heard recently, the third baseman from the Cardinals. All-world third baseman, Gold Glove Award winner for like 10 years in a row. Do you think he's on the move this offseason, or this trade deadline, rather?
Well, you know what, Bob? I'm glad you brought that up because that's actually something I have written down. The St. Louis Cardinals. Their team president came out, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago, actually. Something like that. That said, the team's going to trade people, quote unquote, before the deadline. They're open for business. They're 38-52, last in the NL Central, which is crazy, considering the NL Central.
I didn't think they were anything special last year anyway, because the Central Division stink, but neither of us expected them to be this bad.
They're 13th in the NL, and it's Nolan Arenado and Jack Flaherty who are the top 2 names that are most likely to be moved off that team. And honestly, I think this is the way that they should go. You're the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's be honest. No one's going there to sign with you. I don't know what condition St. Louis's farm system is in, but it must not be that good because I haven't heard anything special about them. So why not move Arenado? You're going nowhere. Get some nice pieces for him. He's still right, still an elite defensive third baseman. He can still hit. I think I don't have any issues with him on that front. Sell Flaherty, sell the farm, sell everybody. Do it.
They should
They're
terrible for the first time in a while. Even if they haven't been winning the division, they're usually a team finishing at or above 500. So a major down year for one of the best franchises in baseball. They're having a rough one, and yeah, it's an ugly team. Nolan Arenado's great. They have a couple other good pieces, but Jack Flaherty, I don't know what they're going to get for him because he was at one time a good starter, but has battled injuries and ineffectiveness for years now. Arenado, they should be able to get a great return on, though. Maybe they try to trade someone else in the outfield, maybe a Tommy Edman or someone like that. But the Wilson Contreras contract so far has been a bust. That was a horrible signing. They pretended like they were going to give him the catcher job, and like a month in, they're saying, "Oh no, it's not working," or something. We're going to go with this guy, and he's barely playing. He's DHing and then sitting on the bench. So that team's a mess. They should just sell everything. But I trust them. They're a good organization. They'll get back up, but they absolutely should get rid of a lot of these pieces, and it starts with Nolan Arenado.
Okay, now I have one more topic I want to cover in baseball before we wrap it up. We're going on 51 minutes now. Before we do move forward, here we go. Velvet Thunder dropped some more stuff here. Rangers forgot they were supposed to put pucks in the goal. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're a Rangers fan. Sucks to suck. Knicks are giving us hope. Are they, though? Are they? Bringing in Dante. That's our big move of the offseason. Super stoked about that, guys. Lions, I don't even want to talk about it. And the Yankees have been a bummer since Joe T left. I'm guessing that's Joe Torre. And
the Knicks are giving us hope. They're headed in the right direction. The Devils are headed in the right direction. I think those teams you don't have to worry about.
Knicks are butt. But anyway, let's wrap this up. One last thing before we call it a show. All right. I wanna play a little game.
I want to play a little game.
And I want to play a little game.
Jigsaw? You jigsaw now?
I'm gonna give you the division leaders right now, Bob, in each division.
Okay.
Tampa Bay in the AL East. Cleveland. Texas. You know what? I'm going to do it this way. Tampa Bay's up 2 games. Cleveland's up half a game on Minnesota. Texas and the West are 2 games up on Houston. Atlanta is 8.5 up on Miami. Cincinnati is 1 up on Milwaukee. The Dodgers and the Arizona D-backs are tied currently. Dodgers are on top with a better differential and 1 less loss, but they are effectively tied for 1 and 2, with San Francisco 2.5 games back of first place. Which one of these are you selling to win their division, to finish on top?
So the one I would sell would be the Texas Rangers in the AL West. I guess in the NL West, I could say Arizona because you're saying they're tied, but to me, that's the Dodgers. I'd give them that tiebreaker.
Tell me about the Texas Rangers because, I mean, yeah, we know the Astros are always dangerous. They're damn near a dynasty, I think, at this point. If they're not winning chips, they're competing for those chips every year the last 5 or 6 years, maybe more. I don't even know at this point. Regardless, I mean, Texas has got a run differential of plus 148. I mean, elite. They're up there. It's them, Atlanta, and the Rays. 149, 148, and 147. After that, the next team is the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers at plus 76.
This has way more to do with the Astros than the Texas Rangers. You said they're 2 games up, the Rangers are?
Rangers are 2 games up,
That was much bigger a few weeks ago. The Astros are coming in hot. We know they're a great team. They've proven it as much as we hate them as Yankee fans. Got to give them the kudos. They're a great organization. They've won 2 World Series. Even if people don't want to give them credit for one of them, it happened. I know what I saw. So whether they cheated to get it or not, it's in the books anyway. I think the Astros are going to come storming back. The Texas Rangers are very good. It's, like I said, it's not so much about them. It's more about Houston. I just expected with their pedigree, with as talented a roster as they have, they'll be able to pass the Rangers, but the Rangers will still stay in it. They have a great lineup. Josh Jung at third base has been outstanding for them. They've gotten great catcher production from Jonah Heim. They obviously already have Adolis Garcia there and Marcus Semien. They're a very good team. But I just think the Astros' history will show that they'll win it. Some of the obvious ones that someone would pick are probably Cincinnati, not a big lead. They came out of nowhere. Cleveland certainly could give that up. The Centrals are gross. Certainly, I think those are what most people would pick, but I'll go with a little different one just because of how good I think that the Houston Astros are, and they're only 2 back now. I'll go with the AL West.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. Their run differential of -9. I mean, compared to some of these other teams that are leading their divisions, I know run differential isn't some end-all be-all, but it's something to gauge because it gives you an idea of what this offense is doing, and not only that, what the pitching staffs are doing. And the -7, they're at -7 in the differential. Tampa's +149, as I mentioned. Texas at +148. Atlanta's at +147. The Dodgers at +76. Hell, even Arizona's +27. I'm sorry. Yeah, -7. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong team. -9. Cincinnati's at -9 run differential. And let's be honest, Cincinnati's pitching staff isn't anything special. They don't have anyone special at that front end. They've got a bunch of young guys who are pitching well. I know Lodolo is one of those guys who's been hurt on and off throughout the year. I don't know if he's back yet or if he's expected back soon.
He strikes out everybody, but also gives up a ton of contact.
Exactly. Like there's some things to like, but something's not quite right about this team. I think the only thing that really benefits them is that the NL Central is such a dumpster fire. Chicago Cubs suck. Pittsburgh fell off like Owen Hart. St. Louis, we mentioned, just awful. They're going to be selling at the deadline.
So
Milwaukee's the only team. Milwaukee's the only team, but I mean, Burns is unimpressive this season. He's got an ERA, I think, still above 4. He's been very, very mediocre this year, and he's supposed to be their ace. Sure, maybe he turns it around in the second half, but I think of all these teams, Cincinnati is more likely than the others to lose it. Now, to wrap it up, I wanted to touch on this because this isn't something we've talked about on the air, but I feel very strongly about this because I was having a conversation about this with the guys in my other fantasy baseball league. We're wrapping up in the last couple of minutes, so let's make this quick. But of all the teams in the top 10, small markets wise, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Miami. I mean, Miami's not a small market, but in baseball, let's be fair, they are. Arizona, Cincinnati's, again, not really a small market, I guess. Cincinnati's a big city, but in baseball, I'll count them.
Middle market.
Right. All these not quite right market teams up there. Baltimore's got the 3rd best record in the league right now. It's ridiculous. Where do you stand on these teams in the second half of the season? These smaller teams, Miami, Baltimore, Arizona, Cincinnati, hell, even San Francisco, even though I don't even think they're in the playoffs. I think they're in the hunt for a wild card, but
they've still been a surprise. People thought they'd maybe lose 90 games, but they could certainly make the playoffs. They're definitely in the hunt right now. A lot of these teams are good. Tampa Bay, they've been doing it for years, so I'm not even going to really factor them in here. They're in great shape. We know how good they are. If they somehow don't win the division, I mean, it's surprising they're only, I think you said, 2 games up on Baltimore. That's a bit of a surprise. I didn't know it got that close. I still thought they were about 4 or 5 up. That's impressive by Baltimore. I like their odds to make the playoffs, whether that is as a division winner or, to me, more likely as a wild card winner. I like their prospects in the second half. Cincinnati, I do too. I didn't say them, but I think they're just a young, exciting team, whereas Brewers, I think, will fade. They'll still be in it because that division stinks. It's not like they're going to be sellers or anything, and maybe you expect them to maybe be buying more so than the Reds. But I just think the Reds have that fun, young team attitude about them, so I think they'll still be good in the second half. But I like both of them. If I had to say any, Cleveland, I'm not impressed by them, but no one's impressive in the AL Central. Those teams stink. And then Miami will fade, but that Arias trade was great for them with the Twins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am on the opposite side of that spectrum. I think these small market teams are not going to factor, except maybe the Rays, but even then, F them. With that in mind, with that being said,
that's it.
I said what I said, and I'll say it again.
That's the way you end it. Yep, F them.
That's how we do it. But no, give us a follow on Instagram. Give us a follow on Twitter. It's at DB Talking Sports. D as in Dan, B as in Bob. That's the handle on Twitter. That's the handle on Instagram. Give us a follow. We'll follow back. Hit those DMs if you have any questions, any topics you want us to talk about on the show. Hit us up. Bob, do you have any last thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
I do not, Dan. We're all good.
Good. Well, with that being said, thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thank you, Velvet Thunder, for your questions and comments. Always appreciated. Keep them coming. For Bobby Hunt, I am Dan Kornhauser. Thank you guys for tuning in for another edition of the DB Show. D as in Dan, B as in Bob. Give us a follow online. We'll follow you back.